My neighbor cautioned, "End your nightly parties now. Enough is enough." Reviewing the security feed of my new dream beachfront vacation home, I watched my sister and her partner's family of 10 celebrating. I immediately dialed 911 and the email landed like a punch to the gut, a digital harbinger of chaos. "Urgent. Your property in Cape May," the subject line screamed, and before I even clicked, a dread I couldn't explain seized me, knowing whatever waited inside was going to shatter the quiet peace I'd meticulously built. My stomach lurched, a cold, sickening flip, even as my fingers hovered over the mouse. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I was sitting at my desk at the marketing firm, halfway through a presentation deck, the kind of demanding, head-down work that had consumed my life for the past 8 years. The sender's name was Gerald Martinez, my neighbor at the beach house. We'd only met twice, brief encounters when I'd driven down to check on the property after closing. He seemed like a quiet, retired man, exactly the kind of person who'd appreciate the peaceful coastal life I was striving for. His message was direct, devoid of any pleasantries or softening buffers. "Miss Crawford, I've tried to be patient, but this has gone too far. The nightly parties at your residence have become unbearable. Music until 3 in the morning. Cars blocking the street. Trash everywhere. My wife can't sleep. Our other neighbors are furious. If this continues, we'll have no choice but to involve the police and the homeowners association. Please address this immediately." My hands went cold, the blood draining from my fingertips. Parties? I hadn't been to the Cape May house in over a month. The property was more than just a house. It was a dream purchase, the culmination of 6 years of 70-hour work weeks and countless canceled vacations. A small, perfect beach cottage, nothing extravagant, but undeniably mine. The plan was to retire there eventually, or at least spend my summers working remotely once I'd proven myself indispensable at the firm. I read Gerald's email 3 times, each word a hammer blow, trying to reconcile the image of my peaceful cottage with his description of a frat house. But what I saw next, playing out frame by agonizing frame, twisted my stomach into a knot that would take months to unravel. With shaking fingers, I opened my security camera app. I'd installed the system myself 2 months prior, partly for insurance, partly because leaving a property vacant for long stretches always made me nervous. For cameras covered the front entrance, back deck, driveway, and living room. I rarely checked them. There had never been a reason to. The live feed from the front camera loaded first. A silver SUV I didn't recognize sat brazenly in my driveway. Then the back deck camera. Beach chairs I hadn't bought, towels draped carelessly over the railing, and a cluster of empty beer bottles on the outdoor table. My heart started hammering, a frantic drum against my ribs. I pulled up the recorded footage from the previous night, fast-forwarding through the timestamps until movement appeared. 7:45 p.m. The front door opened. A woman walked out, carrying a grocery bag, laughing at something someone inside had said. It took me 3 seconds, maybe less, to recognize her. Vanessa, my older sister. Behind her came her husband, Keith, hauling a cooler. Then their 3 kids, bright and oblivious. Then Keith's brother and his wife. Then 2 people I didn't recognize at all. I counted heads as they piled into 2 vehicles and drove off, presumably to pick up more supplies. 10 people total, using my house like it was theirs. I sat frozen, watching my sister, Vanessa, unlock my front door with a key I had never given her. The only spare key, as far as I knew, existed in a lockbox at the property management company I'd hired to handle maintenance. Vanessa shouldn't have had access. She shouldn't have even known the address, but she did. And clearly, she'd been there for a while. I scrolled backward through the footage, each backward click a new layer of betrayal. 3 days ago, their cars first appeared. Before that, 2 weeks of quiet. Before that, another 5-day stretch where the house was full of people. I went back further. 6 weeks of periodic occupation. Always Vanessa and Keith's crew. Always treating my property like a free vacation rental. My phone buzzed. Another email, this time from the Homeowners Association. A formal complaint. Noise violations, threats of fines. Something sharp and cold settled in my chest, a block of ice forming where my breath used to be. But the real storm, the emotional one, was just beginning to brew on the screen of my silenced phone. Here's the thing about Vanessa and me, we hadn't been close in years. She'd married Keith right out of college, had 3 kids by the time she was 30, and seemed to resent every choice I'd made differently. No husband, no children, just a career she considered selfish and a lifestyle she called lonely. Our conversations at family gatherings always carried an edge. Her comments about my empty life were barely disguised as concern. When I told the family about buying the beach house, she'd made a joke about how I'd have nobody to enjoy it with. Mom had laughed. Dad had changed the subject. It wasn't just a house she was using, it was a life she was trying to inhabit, a life she'd openly disdained, but apparently coveted enough to steal. I called the property management company first. The woman who answered sounded frazzled. "Oh, Miss Crawford. Yes, I've been meaning to reach out. We've had some complaints from neighbors about activity at your property. I wanted to confirm whether you'd given anyone permission to stay there." "Absolutely not." My voice came out harder than I intended, brittle with controlled anger. "Who accessed the lockbox?" A pause. Keyboard clicking. "Let me check our logs. The lockbox code hasn't been changed since installation, and we only show 2 access records. One from our maintenance contractor in August, and one from..." "Oh, what?" "One from a Vanessa Holloway. She called our office 6 weeks ago saying she was your sister and needed to grab some documents you'd left at the property. She knew your full name, the property address, and confirmed several security questions. Our receptionist gave her the code." "I'm so sorry I wasn't here that day, or I would have called you first." "Vanessa Holloway." She'd taken Keith's last name, but of course she would have used it to seem more legitimate. "And the security questions. Easy. She knew where I was born, where I went to college, Mom's maiden name, all the standard answers. This was not a mistake. This was a deliberate act, executed with precision. Vanessa's actions exemplify a pattern of entitlement, seeing her sister's possessions as extensions of family privilege and employing manipulative tactics, like using her married name and a fabricated story, to bypass legitimate access protocols. This demonstrates a fundamental disregard for personal boundaries and property rights, often stemming from a deeply ingrained belief that personal connections supersede rules or individual ownership. And that's when a new kind of cold, sharper than any I'd felt before, started to spread through me. "That was unauthorized," I said, keeping my voice level, though every fiber of my being screamed. "She's been using the property without my permission for weeks. I have it on camera." The woman's tone shifted to pure alarm. "We'll change the lockbox code immediately and send you the new one." "Do you want us to contact the police?" "I'll handle it." I hung up and sat staring at my computer screen. The smart thing, the family-approved thing, would have been to call Vanessa directly, confront her, demand an explanation and an apology. But I knew how that conversation would go. She'd minimize it, make excuses, probably turn it around on me somehow. I bought this house and wasn't even using it, so what was the harm in family enjoying it? Didn't I care about giving my nieces and nephew happy memories? Why was I always so selfish? I could already hear her voice, the martyr tone she used whenever someone questioned her decisions. No, I wasn't doing that. Not this time. I opened my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. I explained the situation as calmly as I could, the words coming out flat and steady despite the tremor in my hands. Unauthorized occupants in my property, ongoing trespassing. I was the legal owner, currently 2 hours away, and I had video evidence of people using my home without permission. "Are the individuals currently at the property?" she asked. I checked the live feed. 3 cars in the driveway. Movement visible through the living room window. "Yes," I said. "We'll send officers to investigate. Stay on the line." 20 minutes later, I watched through the security camera as 2 police cruisers pulled up to my house. 4 officers approached the front door. One knocked, waited, then knocked again louder. The door opened. Keith stood there, barefoot, holding a beer, his expression shifting from casual confusion to stark alarm. He called back into the house. Vanessa appeared, wearing a sundress I'd never seen before, her face going pale as she processed the sight of uniformed officers. An officer spoke for several minutes. Vanessa gestured animatedly, pointing at the house, at Keith, at the officers themselves. Keith put down his beer and crossed his arms, his jaw tightening. One of the kids appeared in the doorway and was quickly ushered back inside. Then the officers stepped into the house. I switched camera feeds to the living room. All 10 occupants were gathered now, looking anxious, the party atmosphere completely dissolved. 2 officers took statements while the other 2 walked through the rooms, presumably documenting the occupation. My work phone rang. I ignored it. My presentation could wait. 15 minutes passed. Then the officers escorted everyone outside. Vanessa was crying, her shoulders shaking. Keith looked furious, his jaw clenched tight. Their kids clutched backpacks and stuffed animals, confused and scared. Keith's brother carried out the cooler. His wife gathered beach toys scattered across the deck. They loaded into their vehicles under police supervision and drove away. One officer remained behind, walking the perimeter of the property and taking photos. My phone rang. A local number. Miss Crawford. This is Officer Denise Morrison with Cape May Police Department. We've cleared the unauthorized individuals from your property. I need to get a statement from you and discuss next steps. I gave her everything. The timeline of occupation, how Vanessa obtained access, the neighbor complaints, all of it. She took notes, asked clarifying questions, and informed me that while I could press charges for trespassing, it might be complicated given the family relationship. That's fine, I said. I don't need charges. I just need them gone, and I need this documented in case they try again. Understood. We've informed them that any return to the property will result in immediate arrest. I'd recommend changing all your locks and security codes as soon as possible. Already in progress, I replied. After we hung up, I sat in my office chair and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just a strange, hollow emptiness. Then my phone started buzzing. Text messages. Rapid fire. Vanessa, how could you do this to us? Vanessa, you called the police on your own family. Vanessa, the kids are traumatized. I hope you're happy. Keith, you're unbelievable. We were just using a house you never stay at. Mom, your sister just called me in tears. What is going on? I turned my phone face down and went back to work on my presentation, the words on the screen blurring as the weight of family disapproval pressed down on me. That evening, I drove down to Cape May. The property management company had already changed the locks and given me new keys. I walked through my house, a forensic anthropologist cataloging the damage. A fresh red wine stain bloomed on the living room carpet. A broken lamp lay in the guest bedroom. The deck furniture I'd carefully selected was scratched and sun-faded from being left out uncovered. My expensive coffee maker had a cracked carafe. The guest bathroom shower had mildew from poor ventilation. Someone had used my master bedroom, and the sheets needed replacing. I found Keith's electric razor in the bathroom cabinet. A child's drawing, surprisingly cheerful, was taped to the refrigerator. Vanessa's favorite brand of sparkling water filled an entire shelf in the pantry. They truly moved in. Made themselves at home in a space that wasn't theirs with zero regard for the fact that I'd worked myself to exhaustion to afford it. I spent 3 hours cleaning, scrubbing, erasing every last piece of evidence of their presence. My phone kept buzzing. I didn't look. Finally, around midnight, I sat on my back deck with a glass of wine and checked my messages. 37 texts, 12 missed calls, 3 voicemails. Vanessa had escalated from angry to manipulative. I can't believe my own sister would humiliate me like this in front of my children. Mom had joined in. This is not how family treats each other. Your sister made a mistake, but you've taken this too far. Those poor kids. Dad, surprisingly, had sent only one message: call me when you're ready to talk. Keith's messages were pure venom. Accusations that I was bitter and jealous of their family, claims that I'd always been selfish, threats to tell everyone what kind of person I really was. I deleted everything without responding. But the deepest wounds, I realized, weren't just in the stained carpet or the broken lamp. They were carved into years of unspoken family history. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay in the master bedroom of my beach house, listening to the rhythmic crash of ocean waves and replaying the security footage in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's face when the police arrived. The initial shock, then the anger, then something that looked almost like betrayal, as if I'd been the one who'd done something wrong. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, I gave up on sleep and made coffee. I sat on the back deck, wrapped in a thick blanket, watching the dark water reflect the moonlight. The air smelled like salt and seaweed. A few ambitious joggers passed on the beach below, their headlamps bobbing in the pre-dawn darkness. My phone sat on the table beside me, silent now. I picked it up and scrolled through the messages I'd deleted earlier, reading them one more time before permanently erasing them. One from Vanessa stuck with me. "We're family." That's supposed to mean something. She was right. It was supposed to mean something. But what she didn't understand, what she'd maybe never understood, was that family worked both ways. It meant respect, honesty, asking before taking. She'd conveniently forgotten those parts. I thought about all the times growing up when Vanessa had borrowed my things without asking, my favorite sweater that came back with a stain, my car during college returned with an empty gas tank, my laptop for just a quick project that turned into 3 weeks. Each time, I'd let it go. Each time, Mom had encouraged me to be understanding. "That's what sisters do," she'd say. But when had Vanessa ever extended the same generosity? When I'd asked to borrow her vacuum cleaner after moving into my first apartment, she'd given me a 20-minute lecture about responsibility and taking care of my own household. When I'd needed a ride to the mechanic, she'd been too busy with the kids. The generosity only flowed one direction. Family systems often enable such behavior through guilt, implicit expectations of sacrifice, and a reluctance to enforce boundaries. The flying monkeys effect, where other family members are weaponized to pressure the victim, is a common tactic, leveraging social pressure and pre-existing emotional bonds to maintain the dysfunctional status quo. As the sun started rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. The next morning, I filed a formal incident report with the Homeowners Association, attaching security footage and the police report number. I sent invoices to Vanessa for the damaged items, the professional cleaning I'd have to hire, and the HA fines I'd incurred because of the noise complaints. Total, $4,300. She responded within an hour. "You're seriously charging your own family for staying at a house you abandoned?" The word abandoned hit a nerve, searing hot. I'd saved for 6 years to buy this place. Worked through holidays while Vanessa hosted family gatherings and complained I never attended. Sacrificed vacations, new clothes, dinners out. Also, I could have this one thing that was entirely mine. And she called it abandoned because I didn't live here full-time. I typed out a long response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I settled on facts. "You trespassed on my property for 6 weeks, lied to gain access, caused damage, and generated complaints that could have resulted in legal action against me. Yes, I'm charging you. You have 30 days to pay." Her reply came in seconds. "This is insane. I can't believe you're doing this over a mistake." A mistake? Like she'd accidentally grabbed the wrong keys at a party? Like she'd sent a text to the wrong person? Not a deliberate, sustained pattern of deception and entitlement. I didn't respond, just screenshotted the conversation and added it to the folder I was building. Documentation. Everything needed to be documented now. Another message from Keith. "You know, we can't afford this right now, but I guess you don't care about that." Their financial situation wasn't my concern. They'd managed to afford multiple trips to my beach house, gas for 2 vehicles, groceries, and alcohol for 10 people, entertainment for the kids. They'd found money for all of that. They could find money to repair the damage they'd caused. But I knew how this would play out. They'd refuse to pay, claim I was being unreasonable, and eventually I'd either have to sue family members or eat the cost. Neither option was appealing. I took screenshots of everything and forwarded them to my attorney with a note. They're refusing payment and claiming financial hardship. What are my options? Then I blocked her number. Within an hour, I got a call from Mom's best friend, Patricia. We'd always gotten along reasonably well, and she'd been like an aunt to me growing up. "Honey, I just talked to your mother," she began, her voice dripping with concern. "She's beside herself about this situation with you and Vanessa." I closed my eyes, a sigh escaping my lips. Of course, Mom had called in reinforcements. "I appreciate your concern, Patricia. But this is between me and my sister." I know. But families go through rough patches. Maybe if you just talk to her." She had 6 weeks to talk to me. She chose not to. She was probably scared you'd say no. Exactly. She knew what she was doing was wrong, so she hid it from me. That's not a mistake, Patricia. That's a calculated decision. Silence on the other end, then, quieter, "Your mother thinks you're being too harsh." My mother didn't have police called to her property because of someone else's unauthorized use. My mother didn't get threatening emails from neighbors. My mother didn't spend her evenings scrubbing wine stains out of carpet that someone else spilled. I understand you're upset. I'm not upset. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. We ended the call shortly after. I added Patricia to my mental list of people who would take Vanessa's side because maintaining family peace was more important than accountability. Each step forward, each boundary set, felt like shedding years of accumulated burden, revealing a self I barely recognized but deeply admired. My work colleague, Jennifer, texted that afternoon. "Saw your sister's Facebook post. You okay?" I hadn't looked at social media all day. Curiosity got the better of me. Vanessa had posted a long, vague message about betrayal and how sometimes the people you trust most hurt you the worst. Comments flooded in, supportive messages from friends who had no idea what had actually happened. Mom had commented with a string of heart emojis. Keith's mother had written, "Praying for your family during this difficult time." The narrative was being written without me. I was the villain in a story where I'd done nothing but protect my own property. Jennifer called instead of waiting for my text response. What actually happened? I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, then let out a long whistle. "That's absolutely wild. Your own sister." "Yep. And she's posting on Facebook like she's the victim apparently. Are you going to respond?" Set the record straight. I considered it. Crafted a mental post explaining the truth, attaching security footage, laying out the timeline. It would vindicate me publicly, expose Vanessa's lies, but it would also escalate things beyond repair. Turn a family conflict into public warfare. "No," I finally said. "Let her spin whatever story she wants. The people who matter know the truth." "You're way more mature than I'd be," Jennifer admitted. I'd blast her. Maybe Jennifer was right. Maybe I was being too restrained. But something about public confrontation felt beneath me. Vanessa wanted drama and attention. Engaging would only give her what she craved. The HOA president, a woman named Diane Porter, called me 2 days later. "Miss Crawford, I wanted to follow up on your incident report. The board reviewed the security footage and police documentation. We're formally warning you," she paused, clearly uncomfortable, "your sister and her family, that any future trespassing will result in immediate fines and potential legal action from the association." "Thank you," I said. "I appreciate the board's support." "Between you and me," Diane continued, her voice dropping, "we've had issues before with owners' family members treating properties like vacation rentals without permission. It creates liability problems for everyone. You did the right thing addressing this immediately." Her validation shouldn't have mattered, but it did. Someone outside my family circle confirming I wasn't overreacting. The neighbors who complained, are they satisfied with the resolution? Gerald and his wife? Absolutely. They actually mentioned they'd like to bring you a welcome basket now that they know you'll be using the property properly. They felt terrible about the initial email. That's kind of them. I'd love to meet them properly. After we hung up, I felt something shift. This house, this community, it could actually become the peaceful retreat I'd envisioned, without the shadow of Vanessa's entitlement hanging over it. But amidst the family fallout, a quiet affirmation was beginning to emerge from unexpected corners, hinting at a future I hadn't dared to imagine. Dad called that evening. Mom had called that afternoon, but I let it go to voicemail. Her message was predictably guilt-laden. "Family forgives. Family moves past disagreements. Why was I being so stubborn and cold? Vanessa had apologized even though she didn't really do anything wrong. That last part made me laugh bitterly. An apology that included a disclaimer wasn't an apology. I called Dad back instead. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, his voice careful. "Hey," I replied. A pause. "Your mother is upset." "I know. Your sister is upset." "Also aware," he sighed. "Want to tell me your side?" I did. All of it. The emails from neighbors, the security footage, the repeated unauthorized use of my property, the lies Vanessa told to get access, the damage, the dismissive attitude like she'd done nothing wrong. Dad listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to happen here?" he finally asked. "I want acknowledgement that what she did was wrong. Not an excuse-filled apology, not minimization. Actual accountability." "You know your sister." "Exactly." Another pause. "The money you invoiced her for. Do you actually expect her to pay?" "No. But I expect her to understand there are consequences. And if she doesn't, then she doesn't get access to me anymore, or my house, or my life." Dad exhaled slowly. "That's harsh." "Is it?" "She stole from me, Dad. She lied, trespassed, damaged my property, caused me professional stress with my neighbors and HOA, and then acted like I was the villain for enforcing basic boundaries. How is cutting someone like that out of my life harsh?" He didn't have an answer. We talked for a few more minutes about neutral topics, then said goodbye. I could tell he understood my position, even if he wouldn't say it outright. Dad had always been the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over conflicts and encouraged compromise. But he was also practical. He knew Vanessa had crossed the line. The following week, I received a letter from a lawyer. Keith had hired an attorney to dispute my invoice, claiming I'd given verbal permission for them to use the house, and was now fabricating evidence to harass them. I forwarded it to my own attorney with a simple note. "Please handle this." Richard Chin, my lawyer, called me that evening. "This is absurd and won't go anywhere, but I want you prepared for them to make noise about it." "Let them," I said. "The security footage is clear. The police report is documented. The property management company has records of the unauthorized access. They have no case." "Good." He paused. "You doing okay with all this?" "Family disputes can be messy." "I'm fine. Surprisingly fine, actually." And I was. Each day that passed, I felt lighter. The guilt I'd expected never materialized. Instead, I felt relief. Years of Vanessa's subtle digs, her implications that my life was somehow less valuable than hers, her assumption that my things were available for her use because I didn't have a husband or kids to justify them. All of it crystallized into clarity. I didn't owe her access to my life. I didn't owe her forgiveness without accountability. I didn't owe her anything. 2 weeks later, Mom showed up at my apartment unannounced. I saw her through the peephole and considered not answering, but avoidance wouldn't solve anything. "Hi, Mom." She looked tired. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap. "Your sister is struggling," she started. "Okay." "She's embarrassed. The neighbors saw the police. Her kids ask questions she doesn't know how to answer. Keith is angry all the time." "That's unfortunate." Mom's expression tightened. "You don't care at all." "I care that she violated my property and my trust. I care that she shows zero remorse." "Do I care that facing consequences makes her uncomfortable?" "No, Mom. I don't. She's your sister and I'm a person with boundaries." She crossed them repeatedly, deliberately. "You're going to destroy this family over a house." The accusation hung between us, thick and heavy. I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "I bought the house with money I earned from a job Vanessa thinks is meaningless. I saved for years while she and Keith took vacations and bought new cars. I worked weekends and holidays while she judged me for not having her version of a fulfilling life. That house represents my choices, my priorities, my success. And she treated it like a free Airbnb she was entitled to because I'm single and therefore my achievements don't matter as much as hers." Mom started to protest. I held up a hand. "She didn't ask permission. She lied to get access. She brought 10 people into my home without my knowledge. She caused me problems with my neighbors and HOA. She damaged my property. And when she got caught, she blamed me for enforcing boundaries. At no point has she said, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I violated your trust and your property." Not once. She's apologized multiple times. "No, Mom," she said, "I'm sorry you overreacted, and I'm sorry you called the cops on your family. Those aren't apologies. Those are manipulations." Mom stood abruptly. "I don't know what happened to you. You used to be so sweet." "I grew up," I said, meeting her gaze steadily. "I learned my worth. And I stopped accepting being treated poorly just because someone shares my DNA." She left without another word. I sat in my quiet apartment and felt peace settle over me like a blanket. Setting boundaries, especially within family, is not an act of selfishness, but of self-preservation and defining one's self-worth. It challenges established, often dysfunctional, roles and expectations, leading to pushback from those accustomed to benefiting from the lack of boundaries. This process, while painful, is crucial for psychological health and maintaining respectful relationships. The invoice went unpaid. My attorney sent a formal demand letter. Keith's lawyer sent back a response full of bluster and threats that amounted to nothing. Eventually, Richard advised me that pursuing the money through small claims court would cost more in time and stress than it was worth. "Let it go," he said. "You've made your point." So I did. Not because I forgave the debt, but because I had better things to do than chase people who would never admit fault. The psychological toll of the whole situation surprised me. Some days I felt completely confident in my decisions. Other days, usually after another guilt-laden message from a family member, doubt crept in. Had I been too harsh? Should I have given Vanessa a warning before involving police? But then I'd remember the security footage, 6 weeks of unauthorized use, the lies to the property management company, the damage to my home, the neighbors' complaints, the complete lack of remorse even after being caught. No, I hadn't been too harsh. I'd been exactly as firm as the situation required. My therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Winters, helped me work through the conflicting emotions during our sessions. Guilt is often the weapon people use when they can't defend their actions logically, she told me one afternoon. Your family can't argue that what your sister did was acceptable. So instead, they're trying to make you feel bad for your response to it. It's working sometimes, and that's because you're a person with empathy. But empathy doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. You can feel sorry that your sister is facing consequences while still maintaining that those consequences are deserved. "Mom says I'm destroying the family. Are you?" Dr. Winters asked softly. "Or are you simply refusing to enable dysfunction?" The question sat with me for days. Family dysfunction had always been there, just papered over with forced politeness and expectations that certain people would always accommodate certain other people. I'd been taught to be accommodating. Vanessa had been taught that accommodation was her due. Breaking that pattern felt like breaking the family itself. But maybe the pattern was the problem, not my refusal to continue it. I did spend money on upgrades to the beach house, though. New locks, an upgraded security system, motion sensor lights, and a property manager who actually vetted anyone requesting access. I also joined the Homeowners Association board and became friendly with Gerald Martinez and his wife, Martha, who turned out to be lovely people and apologized profusely for the harsh initial email. "We had no idea it wasn't you," Gerald said over coffee one morning. "We just wanted the noise to stop." "I completely understand," I replied. "Thank you for bringing it to my attention." 6 months passed. I started spending weekends at the beach house, working remotely and enjoying the space I created. No parties, no chaos, just quiet mornings with coffee on the deck and evenings walking along the shore. Gerald and Martha became unexpected friends. They'd bring over fresh baked bread on Saturday mornings, and I'd share coffee with them on my deck. They were retired teachers, married 43 years, with a dry sense of humor that I appreciated. "You know," Martha said one morning, "when we first moved here 5 years ago, we were so worried about getting bad neighbors. Young people who'd party all the time, or investors who'd never maintain their properties. And instead you got me and my drama," I said, with a wry smile. Gerald laughed. "Honey, you're the best neighbor we've had. Quiet, respectful, and you actually dealt with the problem instead of ignoring it. The last owner before you rented to college kids every summer." This is paradise compared to that. Their acceptance meant more than I expected. These strangers had become allies, while my own family treated me like I'd committed some unforgivable sin. I joined a local community garden and started growing tomatoes and herbs. Learned the names of other regular beachgoers. Discovered a bookstore 3 blocks away that hosted reading groups on Thursday evenings. The life I'd imagined when buying this place was actually taking shape. Dad visited once. We grilled fish and talked about his garden and my work projects and everything except Vanessa. As he was leaving, he hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you." "You know, for what?" I asked, a lump forming in my throat. "For knowing when to walk away." I heard through Dad that Vanessa and Keith were struggling financially. 3 kids were expensive, and Keith's business had hit a rough patch. They'd been counting on free beach vacations to offset their tight budget. The information came during one of our regular phone calls. Dad tried to deliver it neutrally, but I could hear the subtext. This was meant to inspire sympathy. Perhaps guilt. Maybe reconsideration of my stance. "How bad is it?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Keith's company lost 2 major contracts. They're looking at downsizing. Vanessa might need to go back to work. "That's hard." "It is," he paused. "She mentioned they've been using your beach house to save money on summer activities for the kids. Now they're stuck at home, and the kids are disappointed." There it was. The real reason he brought it up. "Dad, I'm sorry they're struggling, genuinely, but their financial problems don't justify what they did, and they don't obligate me to provide free vacations. I know your mother just thought Mom always thinks I should sacrifice for Vanessa's comfort. When has Vanessa ever been asked to sacrifice for mine?" Silence. We both knew the answer. "The kids miss you," he said quietly. "They asked about Aunt." "About you." That one hurt. Vanessa's children were innocent in all this. They didn't understand why family gatherings had become tense and awkward. Why I wasn't at birthday parties anymore. Why their mother tensed up whenever my name was mentioned. "I miss them too," I admitted, my voice catching. "But I can't have a relationship with them while their parents are teaching them that what they did was acceptable." "You think Vanessa is doing that?" "I know she is because she's told them I overreacted. That I was mean. That family should help family. She's rewriting history to make herself the victim. And those kids are learning that lesson." Dad couldn't argue. He probably heard the same narrative from Vanessa, delivered with tears and righteous indignation. We changed the subject after that, but the conversation lingered. The kids were collateral damage in a conflict they hadn't created. It wasn't fair to them. But it also wasn't fair to teach them that boundaries were negotiable. That family could violate trust without consequence. That apologies weren't necessary if you claimed good intentions. I felt a flicker of sympathy, then let it pass. Their financial problems weren't my responsibility. My boundary setting hadn't created their struggles. It had simply ended their unauthorized solution. Thanksgiving approached like a storm on the horizon. Mom called in early November with her usual cheerful tone that barely masked the anxiety underneath. "So, we're doing Thanksgiving at our house this year. The usual time. I'm making turkey and your father's handling the ham." "Okay," I said neutrally, already knowing where this was going. "Vanessa and Keith and the kids will be there, of course. And your Aunt Paula, maybe Uncle Raymond if his back is feeling better." "Are you inviting me or warning me?" She sighed. "Don't be like that. I'm inviting you. You're my daughter. I want both my daughters at Thanksgiving. Both your daughters in the same room after everything that's happened. It's been 6 months. Surely we can all be civil for one meal." Civil? As if civility was the issue. As if we'd simply had a disagreement about politics or who made better pie crust. Has Vanessa apologized? Actually apologized, not the non-apology she sent months ago. She's trying. This is hard for her too. That's not an answer, Mom. Please. For me, for your father, for the kids. They miss you so much. The kids. Always the kids. The trump card that was supposed to make me fold every time. "I'll think about it," I said, knowing I wouldn't go. "That's all I ask." We hung up and I sat staring at my phone. The thought of sitting across a table from Vanessa, passing dishes and making small talk while everyone pretended nothing had happened made my chest tight. I called Dad that evening. "She got to you too?" he asked before I could say anything. Thanksgiving invitation/guilt trip. Yeah, she means well. She means she wants her picture-perfect family holiday and doesn't care that one. Daughter violated the other's trust and property. He was quiet for a moment. If you don't come, she'll be devastated. And if I do come, I'll be miserable. Vanessa will be smug. The kids will be confused. Keith will glare at me all day. Aunt Paula will corner me with advice about forgiveness. Is that really better? Probably not, he admitted. But your mother has this idea that if she can just get you two in the same room, everything will magically fix itself. Has she considered that maybe things can't be fixed? That some relationships don't survive betrayal? I don't think she wants to consider that. We talked through various scenarios. Me showing up early and leaving before dinner. Me coming for dessert only. Me hosting a separate gathering at my apartment. Each option had drawbacks that made it untenable. Finally, Dad said what I think he'd been holding back. You have my full support if you decide not to come. I'll handle your mother. She'll be heartbroken. She'll survive. And maybe she'll finally understand that actions have consequences, even for her favorite daughter. The admission hung between us. We never talked explicitly about Mom's favoritism, but it had always been there. Vanessa could do no wrong. Her choices were always understandable, forgivable, defendable. Mine required constant justification. I'm not coming, I said firmly. I'll send a card and a gift for the kids, but I can't sit through a meal pretending everything's fine. I understand. I'll tell her. Thanks, Dad. After we hung up, I felt both relieved and sad. Holidays were supposed to be about family, and here I was deliberately choosing to spend Thanksgiving alone. But the alternative, subjecting myself to hours of tension and judgment, seemed worse. I spent Thanksgiving volunteering at a local soup kitchen, then treated myself to a quiet dinner at a small restaurant near my apartment. The waitress was kind, the food was good, and I didn't have to navigate passive-aggressive comments or forced civility. Mom didn't call that day or the next. When she finally called 3 days later, her voice was cold, sharp as a winter wind. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. I did, actually. How was yours? The kids kept asking where you were, Sophie cried. Your sister barely ate, but I'm sure your volunteer work was very fulfilling. The sarcasm was unlike her. Vanessa's influence, probably teaching Mom that I was the selfish one, the cold one, the family destroyer. Mom, I'm not going to apologize for protecting my mental health. Mental health? Is that what we're calling selfishness now? I could have argued, defended myself, listed all the reasons I'd been right to stay away. Instead, I said, if that's how you see it, then maybe we don't have much more to talk about right now. Maybe we don't. She hung up. I sat holding my phone, feeling the weight of that disconnection. My mother had just chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. A year after the incident, I received a Facebook message from Vanessa. Just 3 sentences. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. I stared at it for a long time. It could have been genuine. It could have been Mom's coaching. It could have been desperation for reconciliation to ease family gatherings. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. But forgiveness required trust, and trust required evidence of change. And 3 sentences after a year of silence wasn't evidence. I closed the message and went back to planning my next beach weekend. The house was mine. The boundaries were clear. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, authentically free. Gerald saw me pulling in that Friday evening and waved from his porch. Good to see you, neighbor. I waved back, smiling. Good to be here. And I meant it. This whole journey, from rage to quiet peace, fundamentally reshaped my understanding of family, sacrifice, and self-worth. It forces a question that lingers long after the police cars leave and the apologies never come. When does family obligation cross the line into enabling personal harm? And at what point is defending your boundaries, even against those you love, the only path to true liberation?